My wife announced, "I'm pregnant. I told my ex first he deserved to know before you." I smiled. How thoughtful. That night, I canceled one trip, signed one document, and paid a visit I'd been postponing. Her ex wasn't alone when I congratulated him. I'm 38, married for 6 years, and until 3 months ago, I thought I had a pretty solid life. Not perfect, but solid. My wife and I met through mutual friends at a beach bonfire when I was 32. She was 29 then, charming, quick-witted, the kind of person who could make awkward silences disappear. We dated for a year before I proposed. The wedding was small, just close family and friends. We bought a house 2 years in, adopted a dog, talked about kids, but never rushed it. Life felt stable. Then she came home on a Tuesday evening in late September with that look on her face. You know the one. The kind that says something big is about to drop. I was in the kitchen making stir-fry, my usual weeknight routine. She set her bag down, walked over, and stood there staring at me until I turned off the stove. "I need to tell you something," she said. I braced myself. My first thought was her mother's health, maybe a job issue. Instead, she said, "I'm pregnant." I froze. We'd stopped actively trying about 8 months before because she said the pressure was too much. We'd agreed to just let it happen naturally. So hearing it now felt like good news, surprising news. I opened my mouth to respond, maybe hug her, but she held up a hand. "I told my ex first," she said. "He deserved to know before you." The kitchen got very quiet. The dog was asleep in the living room. Outside, someone was mowing their lawn. I heard every blade of grass getting cut. "What?" I managed. "He deserved to know," she repeated, calmer now, like she'd rehearsed this. "We have history. He was my first real love. I thought it was only fair." I stared at her. My brain was doing somersaults trying to make sense of it. Her ex. The guy she dated for 3 years in her early 20s, the one she occasionally mentioned in passing, always with a certain nostalgic tone I'd learned to ignore. They'd broken up over a decade ago, long before I was in the picture. "Why would he need to know?" I asked slowly. She looked at me like I was being dense. "Because he's been a part of my life. Because I wanted to share the news with someone who understood me before all this." "Before all this," I repeated. "You mean before me?" "Don't twist my words." "I'm not twisting anything. You told your ex-boyfriend you're pregnant before telling your husband. How exactly should I take that?" She sighed, that exasperated sigh she used when she thought I was overreacting. "You're making this into something it's not. I just thought he'd appreciate knowing. We're still friends." "Friends," I said. "When's the last time you two even talked?" She hesitated. "We've been in touch." "How much?" "Does it matter?" "Yeah, it matters a lot right now." She crossed her arms. "A few times a month, texting mostly. He reached out a while back, we reconnected. It's not a big deal." A few times a month. For how long I didn't know. I felt my hands shaking, so I gripped the counter. "And you thought telling him about our baby before telling me was appropriate?" "It's my baby too," she shot back. "I can tell whoever I want." I smiled then. Not because anything was funny, but because my brain needed to do something other than scream. "How thoughtful," I said quietly. She blinked. "What?" "Nothing. I'm going for a walk." I grabbed my jacket and left. I walked for 2 hours, just circling the neighborhood, trying to process. By the time I came back, she was in bed pretending to sleep. I slept on the couch. The next morning, I made coffee and sat in the kitchen going through my phone. I'd been planning a work trip for the following week, a conference 3 states over that I'd been looking forward to. I canceled it. Then, I pulled up a document I'd been avoiding for months, a post-nuptial agreement my lawyer friend had drafted as a favor after a very drunk conversation where I'd joked about protecting assets. I'd never mentioned it to my wife, never thought I'd need it. I read through it again, made a few notes. Then I did something I'd been postponing for 2 months. I drove across town to visit her ex. I knew where he lived because my wife had mentioned it once in passing, some condo complex near the river. I'd filed the information away without thinking much of it. But that morning, I looked up his name. She'd told me years ago, and I'd remembered, found his address through a mutual contact, and showed up unannounced around 10 a.m. When I knocked, a woman answered. She was maybe 30, wearing yoga pants and an oversized sweater, holding a coffee mug. She looked confused. "Can I help you?" she asked. "I'm looking for—" I said his name. "He's in the shower. Who are you?" "I'm married to his ex-girlfriend," I said. "I heard he got some interesting news yesterday. Wanted to congratulate him in person." Her face changed. Confusion turned to suspicion. "What news?" Before I could answer, he appeared behind her in a bathrobe, hair dripping wet. He froze when he saw me. "Who's this?" the woman asked him, sharper now. He recovered quickly, smiled that charming smile I'd seen in old photos my wife had shown me years ago. "Hey man, what brings you here?" "Just wanted to say congrats," I said. "On hearing about the baby. Must have been exciting for you." The woman's face went pale. "What baby?" He put a hand on her shoulder. "Babe, this is a misunderstanding." "She told you before she told me," I continued, addressing him directly. "I thought that was sweet. Figured you'd want to know that I'm aware. And I thought your girlfriend here might want to know too." "Fiancé," the woman corrected quietly, holding up her left hand. Small diamond ring. "Fiancé," I said. "Even better. Congratulations to you both." I left before he could say anything else. As I walked to my car, I heard them arguing inside, her voice rising. I drove home feeling oddly calm. My wife was in the shower when I got back. I sat at the kitchen table and waited. When she came out, I said, "I visited your ex this morning." She stopped in the doorway. "You what?" I congratulated him on the news. His fiancée was very interested to hear about it. Her face went white. "You had no right—" "You told him before me," I said. "I figured he was important enough to visit." "You're insane," she hissed. "You just ruined—" "Ruined what?" I asked. "His relationship? Interesting." She grabbed her phone and disappeared into the bedroom. I heard her frantically calling someone, leaving voicemails. She came out an hour later, red-eyed. "He's not answering," she said. "Probably busy," I said. She glared at me. "You don't understand. You don't understand what you've done." "Explain it to me." She didn't. She grabbed her keys and left. She didn't come home that night. Update 1. She stayed at her sister's place for 3 days. During that time, I got a call from my lawyer friend. I asked him to finalize the post-nuptial agreement and prepare a separation agreement just in case. He asked if I was sure. I said I'd never been more sure of anything. My wife came back on Friday afternoon. She looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept. She sat down across from me at the kitchen table. "I need to tell you something," she said. "Go ahead." "I've been confused," she said. "About us, about everything." "Confused how?" She took a breath. "He and I reconnected 6 months ago. It started innocent, just catching up. But then we started talking more, and I realized I still had feelings." I sat very still. "Feelings?" "I thought they'd go away. I thought if I just ignored them, they'd fade. But then I found out I was pregnant and I panicked. I didn't know what to do. So I told him. Before me." "Yes. And what did he say?" She hesitated. "He said he wished things had been different. That if I wasn't married, maybe we could have tried again." "But you are married." "I know." "So what exactly are you telling me?" She looked down. "I don't know if I want to be married anymore." The words hung there. I'd expected something like this, but hearing it still felt like a punch. "Because of him," I said. "Because I'm not happy," she said. "I haven't been happy for a while." "And you thought having a baby would fix that?" "I didn't plan this. she said. It just happened. I laughed. Couldn't help it. It just happened. You reconnected with your ex, developed feelings, told him you're pregnant before me, and now you're not sure about our marriage. But it just happened. You're being cruel. I'm being honest, I said. You want out? Fine. But let's not pretend this is anything other than what it is. She started crying. I didn't move to comfort her. I just sat there, watching her fall apart, feeling nothing but a cold clarity. Is the baby even mine? I asked. She looked up sharply. Of course it's yours. How do I know that? Because I haven't slept with him. But you wanted to. She didn't answer. I stood up. I want a paternity test. Non-negotiable. You don't trust me? No, I said. I don't. She left the room. I heard her on the phone again, this time talking to her sister. Lots of crying, lots of, he's being unreasonable. I didn't care. That evening, I got a text from an unknown number. It was him. We need to talk, it said. I didn't respond. He called. I let it go to voicemail. He called again. I blocked the number. My wife came out of the bedroom around 9 p.m. He wants to meet with you. No. He wants to explain. There's nothing to explain, I said. You two have been emotionally involved for months. You told him about the baby first because you wanted his reaction more than mine. You've been checked out of this marriage, and now you're pregnant and don't know what to do. Does that about cover it? She was quiet. I'll take that as a yes, I said. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to take a paternity test. If the baby is mine, we'll figure out custody. If it's not, you can do whatever you want. Either way, I'm filing for separation. You're giving up on us. You gave up first, I said. I'm just catching up. Update 2. The paternity test was scheduled for 2 weeks out, once she was far enough along for a safe, non-invasive test. During those 2 weeks, we lived like ghosts in the same house. She stayed in the bedroom, I stayed in the guest room. We communicated through text messages even though we were 20 feet apart. Her family started calling me. Her mother, her sister, even her father, who I'd met maybe twice. They all had variations of the same speech. Marriages go through rough patches. I was being too hasty. Think of the baby. I listened politely and said nothing that gave them ammunition. My own family was a different story. I told my brother everything. He flew in from 2 states over and stayed for a weekend. We didn't talk much about it, just hung out like old times, watched football, drank beer. On his last night, he said, "Whatever you decide, I got your back." That meant more than any advice. I also started seeing a therapist. Not because I thought I was wrong, but because I needed to make sure I was thinking clearly. The therapist asked good questions, didn't judge, helped me separate my anger from my decisions. By the 3rd session, I felt more grounded. Meanwhile, my wife's behavior got increasingly erratic. She'd go out for hours without saying where, come back smelling like cigarettes, even though she didn't smoke, spend entire evenings on her phone. One night, I heard her crying in the bedroom, talking to someone, saying things like, "I didn't mean for it to happen this way," and "I don't know what I want anymore." I stopped listening after that. Her crisis wasn't mine to manage. The day of the paternity test, she barely looked at me. We drove to the clinic in silence, sat in separate corners of the waiting room, went through the procedure like strangers. The results would take a week. That week was the longest of my life. I threw myself into work, stayed late at the office, avoided going home until I knew she'd be asleep. I started looking at apartments online, calculating what a divorce would cost, preparing for every possible outcome. On day 6, I got a call from her ex's fiancé. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. "I wanted to thank you," she said. "For what?" "For telling me the truth. I ended things with him, found out he'd been in contact with your wife for months. He lied about it, said they were just old friends. When I confronted him after you left, he admitted they'd been talking about what-if scenarios. What if they'd never broken up? What if she wasn't married, all that? I'm sorry, I said. Don't be. I'm glad I found out before the wedding. He's been trying to get me back, but I'm done. Just wanted you to know you did me a favor. After we hung up, I felt a strange sense of validation. At least someone else saw the situation clearly. The results came back on day 7. I was at work when my phone buzzed with the notification. I stepped into a conference room, closed the door, and opened the email. 99.9% probability of paternity. The baby was mine. I sat there for a long time, staring at the screen. Part of me had hoped it wasn't, that I could walk away clean. But another part, the part that still remembered loving her, felt a weird sense of relief. I forwarded the results to her without comment. She called immediately. Can we talk? About what? About us. About what happens now. What do you want to happen? I don't know, she said. I'm so confused. I thought I wanted him, but now that I can't have him, I don't know what I want. That's not really an answer. I know. Here's what I know, I said. You emotionally cheated on me. You prioritized him over me during one of the biggest moments of our lives. You've been distant and dishonest. The only reason you're confused now is because he's not available anymore. If his fiancée had stayed, you'd probably be asking for a divorce right now. She was crying. That's not fair. It's completely fair, I said. You don't get to come back because your backup plan fell through. I love you, she said. No, you don't. You love the idea of not being alone. There's a difference. I hung up. Update 3. I moved into an apartment 2 weeks later. It was small, 1 bedroom, but it was mine. I took the dog, half the furniture, and my peace of mind. My wife didn't fight it. She stayed in the house, said she needed space to think. Her family ramped up the pressure. Her mother showed up at my apartment unannounced, begging me to reconsider. Her sister sent long text messages about how pregnancy hormones were making my wife irrational, how I was abandoning her when she needed me most. I didn't engage. I'd learned that lesson. My lawyer finalized the separation agreement. We'd split assets 50-50. I'd pay child support once the baby was born. We'd figure out custody arrangements then. It was clean, straightforward, and completely devoid of emotion. I thought that was the end of it. Then, about a month after I moved out, I got a call from an unknown number at 2 a.m. I answered because I thought maybe it was an emergency. It was him. We need to talk, he said. No, we don't. She's been calling me nonstop, he said, showing up at my place, leaving messages, telling me she made a mistake. I need you to make her stop. I almost laughed. That's not my problem. She's your wife. Separated, I corrected. And she's obsessed with you, not me. Deal with it yourself. I'm getting a restraining order if she doesn't stop. Good luck with that. I hung up and blocked the number. The next morning, my wife called. Did he contact you? Yes. What did he say? That you're harassing him. Silence. Are you? I asked. I just wanted to talk to him, she said quietly. To explain. Explain what? That you blew up 2 relationships chasing a fantasy? It wasn't a fantasy, she said. I really thought we could what? Run off into the sunset? You're 7 months pregnant with my kid. He's not interested. His ex-fiancée wants nothing to do with him. You destroyed everything for nothing. She started crying again. I felt nothing. I made a mistake, she said. Multiple mistakes, I corrected. Can we try again? Can we go to counseling or something? No. Please. I'll do anything. You can't undo this, I said. You can't untell him before me. You can't unprioritize him. You can't unbetray me. It's done. What about the baby? I'll be there for the baby, I said. But you and I are done. Update 4. She gave birth in early March, a boy, 7 pounds, 3 ounces. She texted me when she went into labor, and I met her at the hospital. Her mother and sister were there, both giving me cold looks. I ignored them. I held my son for the first time and felt everything I thought I'd locked away come flooding back. He had my nose, my mother's eyes. He was perfect. My wife looked at me from the hospital bed. "We made something beautiful," she said. "Yeah," I said. "We did. Doesn't that mean something?" I looked at her, really looked at her. She looked exhausted, hopeful, desperate. I thought about everything that had happened, everything she'd said and done, and I realized I didn't feel anger anymore. I just felt tired. "It means we'll be good co-parents," I said. "That's all." Her face fell. I think part of her had been holding on to the idea that the baby would fix everything, that I'd see him and change my mind. But I'd already changed my mind months ago. I stayed at the hospital for 2 days, sleeping in a chair, helping with feedings, learning how to change diapers. When it was time to take him home, I followed them to the house, my old house, helped get everything set up, then said goodbye. "You're leaving?" she asked. "I'll be back tomorrow," I said. "But yeah, I'm leaving." "This is your house too." "No," I said. "It's yours. I'll come by to see him, but this isn't my home anymore." I could see her trying not to cry. Part of me still cared about that, about her pain, but it wasn't enough to stay. Over the next few months, we developed a routine. I'd come by 3 times a week, spend time with my son, help out where I could. It was cordial, functional. She stopped asking me to reconsider. I think she finally understood it was over. Her ex, from what I heard through mutual acquaintances, moved to another city. Apparently the drama was too much and he wanted a fresh start. I didn't care enough to verify. Her ex-fiancée, the woman I'd inadvertently helped, sent me a message a few months after the baby was born. She'd started seeing someone new, was happy, thanked me again for the wake-up call. I wished her well. Final update. It's been almost a year now since everything happened. My son is 8 months old, babbling, crawling, absolutely perfect. I see him 4 times a week, have him at my apartment on weekends. My ex-wife and I have learned to communicate efficiently, without drama. We're not friends, but we're not enemies either. I finalized the divorce 2 months ago. It was quick, uncontested. She signed everything without issue. I think she finally accepted responsibility for what she'd done. I haven't dated anyone since. Not because I'm still hung up on her, but because I'm focused on being a good father and rebuilding my life. My apartment is bigger now, 2 bedrooms, decorated with photos of my son. I've reconnected with old friends, picked up hobbies I'd abandoned, started running again. People ask if I regret how I handled things, if I was too harsh, too unforgiving. Honestly, no. She made her choices. I made mine. Could I have fought harder for the marriage? Maybe. But fighting for something that's already dead seems pointless. I've learned a lot about trust, about boundaries, about knowing when to walk away. I've learned that love isn't enough if it's not paired with respect. I've learned that you can't build a future with someone who's stuck in the past. My son will grow up with 2 parents who care about him but aren't together, and I've made peace with that. I'll answer his questions honestly when he's old enough to ask. I'll never trash talk his mother to him, but I'll also never pretend everything was fine. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if she'd told me first, if she'd never reconnected with her ex, if she'd been honest about her feelings before letting them fester. But I don't dwell on it. That's not the life I'm living. The life I'm living now is quiet, stable, mine. I come home to a clean apartment and a happy dog. I spend weekends with my son, watching him discover the world. I go to work, hang out with friends, sleep through the night without wondering where my partner is or who she's texting. It's not the life I planned, but it's better than the one I was settling for. Her ex's fiancé was right. I did us both a favor that morning when I showed up at his door. I exposed the truth, forced everyone to stop pretending. Sometimes you need everything to fall apart before you can build something real. I don't know what my ex-wife thinks about when she's alone with our son. If she regrets her choices, if she wishes she'd done things differently. We don't talk about that stuff. We talk about feeding schedules and doctor appointments and which books to read before bedtime, and that's enough. It has to be. I'm 38, divorced, co-parenting, living alone except for weekends. A year ago, I would have called that failure. Now I call it survival. And maybe, eventually, I'll call it something better than that. But for now, survival is plenty.